Welcome to a special edition of Unlearning, Unlocking, Unleashing, a podcast series that attempts to dive deep into various experiences of unlearning conventions, unlocking potential, and unleashing transformation in an innovator's journey. This podcast is brought to you by Audacity, an innovator's playground located in Jurong Innovation District, Singapore's upcoming innovation hub. The three U's, unlearning, unlocking, and unleashing, is the philosophical backbone of the Audacity culture. Through this series, we will be speaking to friends and members of the Audacity community. Our conversations hope to uncover what the three U's mean to them, hear about their inspirational examples, and learn from reflections of their personal experiences of what it means to be an innovator.
Hi, I'm Jen from Project Flourish.
And I'm Colin, your co-host for today.
This episode, we will be having a chat with Edric Subur, founder of Warmspace, calling in from Bali, Indonesia. He and his team received recognition for the Most Audacious Startup at a Moonshot bootcamp last year. We've invited him as a speaker today to hear about his reflections of the bootcamp and how Warmspace has been since.
Moonshot Permacolony is a multi-year startup program. The mission to build permacolonies kicked off with a global call for startups in November 2020.
The program is for startups that recognize the importance of scalable impact and longevity. This year, we will focus on nurturing Singapore-based startups that are looking to realize their Moonshot idea for a more sustainable, livable, and livable society.
From October 15 to 30th, founders and teams have access to notable mentors, investors, and seasoned entrepreneurs. This year's hybrid program also includes in-person activities at Audacity's Playground for Innovators in Jurong Innovation District.
For more details of the program, check out the link in our caption. Applications close 31st August, so do sign up soon. All right. Hi, Edric. Thanks for joining us today. The objective of this episode is to ask about your experience with Permacolony last year. And then because you are the winner of the Most Audacious Startup at Moonshot Permacolony Bootcamp 2020 for Permacolony 2.0, which will be happening in October. We wanted to ask you about your experience so that it could give some kind of insights and motivations of how the experience was last year so that people will be encouraged to be part of this wonderful community. Edric, it has been almost a year now since Moonshot Permacolony Bootcamp. Where are you at right now and how are you feeling this year?
I can't believe that it's been a year because Permacolony felt like it was just a couple of months ago. And where we are right now, we are in the middle of fundraising. We have done a lot of validation on our product, and we're very confident to see that there's a real need for what we are serving and offering at Warmspace to provide and scale deep human connection around the world. And we're thinking of ways to how we can reach as many people as possible to create more of this magic of authentic human connection to many others. And in order to do that, we need some resources to grow the team, to build more functionalities, to work with different communities, to onboard different human connection facilitators, to create different experiences focusing on different topics and struggle and different minority groups. So we are in the growth phase now, I must say. Permacolony was a pretty significant milestone for us last year that kind of propelled us to grow to the place that we are now, because through that intense bootcamp, we managed to do a lot of user validation, and it really gave us a really healthy pressure to grow quickly in such a short amount of time and get all of our team members to concentrate their focus on for mission and validate the need for our products and to get that type of recognition from all the mentors in the growth camp as well was really meaningful to us to allow us to see that this is not just like a passion project, but something that could really make a real difference in the world.
Well, you touched a lot of very interesting points here. Intense, you said. How intense was it? And how much value did you get out of, the time spent?
Yeah, it was definitely worth it. It was intense in a way where we were given, we were pushed to be ambitious in setting our goals and what we want to achieve by the end of that 1 week. And then each day, all the CEOs will like check in. I can't remember how many times, probably twice a day to report our goal for the day and our progress. So there's a really strong accountability system, and to be surrounded by everyone who was also as motivated as was very inspiring, solving clinical problems, was very empowering to feel that you're not in this alone, and to see that everyone was really putting their best in achieving the goals that they've set for the bootcamp. That really gave us the motivation to also want to do our best. And it was also quite intense in a way where there's just a lot of things going on in any given day. There's so many talks and workshops, and there's so many things happening in parallel as well. So, and then we got to also be proactive in reaching out to the mentors and potential investors that we might want to work with. So there's just a lot of resources that we can tap on, and we got to be strategic in how we could leverage and make the most of all of them. And there's only very limited time. So it's a good intent. You're given a lot of resources and motivation, and I must say that it's also up to you of how much that you want to make out of the experience, because no one really forces you to go to any of the events or workshops. It's really up to you to decide which mentor you want to reach out to, which event, which talk that is most relevant to you. If you're not active in raising your hands and like showing up for this event, that you won't really get much out of.
Well, yeah, I think that motivation to want to opt into an activity or workshop or program would have much more better return, right, than if it's just, served on a silver platter. And I think that's a very important trait any entrepreneur or startup founder or CEO needs to have, especially when you're trying to get to growth stage. You mentioned notable mentors. Any memorable experiences that you had or mentors that you'd like to highlight from last year?
Yeah, who came to mind was this digital marketing expert.
Joanna?
Joanna, yes.
Yeah.
Joanna. She was very passionate in what she was doing. And during our session, she was just very generous in giving feedback and brainstorming ideas with us and helping us create framework on like how we approach our marketing strategy. And it was really rare to come across anyone like her who just wanted to give so much and had so much passion in what she was doing. I mean, I consider myself an expert in digital marketing, but I didn't have the same passion as that to help to implement that in a startup strategy. So that was very memorable. And I think we had a session with Ragnar as well, who I think is the main person spearheading the bootcamp as well. He gave us very direct feedback, and he's very on the ball and to the point and very effective in the messages that he delivered and the action items that he wanted to focus on. So I would say these are the types of people, like a list type of mentors that you don't come across just anywhere. So it's really nice to have all this A-star mentors and investors curated in one place for you to tap on for the full week.
Speaking of passion, could you share us why you started Warmspace?
Yeah. Um, well, it's a little personal, so I'm gonna be a little bit vulnerable and to share that for a very long time I realized that I was lonely and I didn't have any support system and I always longed for meaningful connections. I didn't even know what meaningful connection was at that time, but I knew that I longed for something deeper. But I just didn't I kept not being able to get that. And I think that led me to close up a little bit and I wasn't able to and then later on after going through experiences like a Tony Robbins program and at Burning Man I started to cultivate more empathy and learning how to really foster this type of meaningful connection and I learned that to do that I need to really open my heart and to learn how to be vulnerable. And I learned that the reason why I wasn't having this type of connections was I was never really allowing people to see me, the fullest and all parts of me. And I always give away that impression of me as someone who is very easygoing and happy-go-lucky and everything seems to be all right. And I was just so used to like keeping my problems to myself and trying to solve my own problems by myself. And then I think at Burning Man, that was the first time I felt like I was receiving unconditional love from the people whom I just met for like the first time in that week. And it was just and knowing that they see me where in an environment where I was completely fully myself, like there's no um, pretending of like what I want them to see me as, like or thinking of how I can impress them with the career I built for myself. It's really my fullest authentic self of seeing how I was received that way. That really shifted something in me, and and that really inspired me to to think that this is what I've been missing in my life and what I want to cultivate more consciously, and I want to bring back in my default life back in Singapore. So I started to explore ways of how I can cultivate more of these meaningful connections. I started to organize like a men's circle. I explored some connection games and card games. So long story short, my exploration of like ways to foster meaningful connection, I learned that facilitation and having a sort of a structure and having someone kind of hold you along the way in the way you foster that connection is very powerful in ensuring that you could connect with the other person from that place of authenticity and acceptance. So during the pandemic in 2020, I think Jen, you and we were organizing the Humanity Design Summit, and we're thinking of how we could foster deeper connection for all the participants. And we thought of this gamified version of getting the participants to get on a group discussion. And that inspired me to bring all the things that I've explored and learned in how to foster this meaningful connection to the personal level beyond the professional level. So I ran some experiments, facilitated like 30 calls myself with like 60 strangers, one-on-one.
Yeah, I remember that.
And like I just saw how impactful and profound it was. Oh yeah, you're part of the experiment as well. And it was just a simple thing, but I saw how people really moved during the call, and like people get to share a part of themselves that they felt they weren't really able to with like people in their lives. Some people cried during the call, so I just saw the amount of healing and release that such a simple tool like a facilitation can do to someone, and the impact they can do to one person. So I decided to scale the project and think of ways I can automate myself. Because the thing is, you can't have a facilitator in every single conversation. It'll be very costly. So I thought of ways to productize myself to make sure that every conversation can be facilitated without having me to be there. And that's what birthed Warmspace.
Right. Yeah. Human emotion is such a strong validation of a concept, and at the same time, it's also so personal that it's motivating and encouraging for you to carry on with what you think could help make impact, right, in the world. So speaking of that, what were some of the examples of unlearning that you experienced during the process of beta testing yourself and then and then having to experience an intense boot camp for growth with the Audacity community, what were some of the notable unlearning examples experience you had that you think others could learn from?
That there are a lot of ways where you could validate your product or your concept without having to fully build your product yet. So we went through, like different iterations of the product. Before I even built a team, I did the facilitation myself without having any product at all, just over Zoom. And then moving to like, how can I automate this? I started playing a recording of my voice instead of me doing the live facilitation. And then slowly moving to building a very rough web version of our product and get two people together to like run through the experience themselves. So there are a lot of ways you can validate your concept and the need from the market and product market fit without having to build the product itself. And during the bootcamp itself, I learned how important it is to set like a goal and have everyone on your team to be fully aligned and work together and align all of your attention, time, and resources towards that one North Star. It was just a really, I think, in fact, before then, I could see the difference before Permacolony and after Permacolony and how our team became so much more focused and like aligned, and it almost felt like we got into this like group flow together. So I think that intense period was intense, but I think it was necessary to kind of align and like calibrate everyone's kind of energy and focus and attention toward one funnel. And it was just an amazing bonding experience for us when we go through such an intense experience together.
And even one of your members, right? He was initially a mentor, and he decided to leave mentoring Permacolony and joined your team instead.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I think that's,
yeah, and I think I think we were one of the youngest startups in the whole batch. So there's a lot of like uncertain things still happening while we're attending the bootcamp. One of them, Shane, was still a mentor, and then one of our co-founders was also kind of unsure whether he wanted to commit full time. And so initially the plan was for him to kind of help us out until the end of the bootcamp. But because of the validation that we saw in the bootcamp and all the feedback that we gathered through the users that we managed to get on board during the bootcamp, like he saw the real impact that Warmspace can bring to the world, and that convinced him to fully commit to Warmspace. Right. So yeah, a lot of things happened during that intense period. I think it put a lot of missing puzzle pieces together.
Right.
And allowed us to speak more clearly where this is headed and bring more conviction to people who were initially unsure because we're so new, but like that can really help accelerate a lot of things to help us arrive at a decision and alignment much sooner.
Right. Well, it seems like you unlocked a few superpowers, I think, throughout the process and the program. If you could name 3 superpowers that you've unlocked, what would they be?
Yeah, I guess one is the superpower of aligning everyone's interests and then bringing everyone together, kind of like herding everyone toward like one big vision. I think it's been like a big learning for me on like how to like not use force to get everyone aligned on our mission and vision, but to take time to really understand what their motivation is and see how that could be aligned with our bigger vision, mission. So it's really an art on how I don't want to be influencing too much to think that it's not coming from them, like it's like a direct cut kind of command or direction from me. So I want it to also come from them. And so I think I've learned how to like fully influence, but also align interests to create like a bigger vision together. Like it always surprised me uh, pleasantly on how sometimes I'll come up with something and then they'll come up with something else that is like better than what I thought. And then I think it's like this scenario where like 1+1 doesn't equal to 2, but like 3 or 5. So it's been beautiful, the journey of like how we're shaping the vision together. Another superpower that I guess I unlocked in this process, uh, I guess the superpower of building um, a community, um, thinking of ways how to not treat our users just as users, but also part of our family. So really listening to their feedback. At the end of each Warmspace, we ask for their feedback and really take that into consideration how we could iterate and improve our product. Thinking of ways to engage them, creating events and creating community platforms to really hear their voice and allow us to communicate to them. Yeah, and the third one, I would say uh, the superpower of authentic communication. Like just because we have to, I feel like we have to practice what we preach, because we're all about authentic relating. And I see how this can be very important, and I've been practicing it more and more within our team and also with our community, having difficult conversations and sharing honestly and authentically how I feel, because I can be a people pleaser sometimes, and I will I will agree to everyone just to avoid conflict. But I've really learned on how to also honor my own voice and express that, while also respecting other people's opinion. And we have this thing in our team called the team circle. So every 2 weeks we will like gather to share our inner experience and feelings toward the company and an appreciation for one another. So I felt like I've grown to learn how to shape a more human culture in a company rather than treating your employees as colleagues or another proper environment, but how to really bring the human side of the company
Mm.
in a workplace.
Well, it's amazing. You sound like not only have you unleashed more ability to connect more human with people using the platform, but also within your team. And I'm sure that would radiate with the people that they interact with. And I mean, I've taken a Warmspace experience before. Colin, you have experienced Warmspace as
Yep.
well. Yeah. Yeah. Did
Can,
you have any questions?
yeah, I think you've come a long way, and your journey has been really, really exciting. I wanted to ask, give us a prelude to Audacity, what you were doing, your personal, your professional experiences, that were you on track to becoming what you thought you wanted to be, and how did Audacity and maybe the pandemic change your the way you thought, and which led to
Unleashing.
yes, or unlearning, to your journey in Warmspace. Yeah, just
Yeah,
briefly, if you can, please.
yeah, absolutely. Like the answer is no. I never thought that I would be doing what I would be doing today. Because if I just thought, if I look at how I was and who I was like 5 years ago, like it was never in my imagination that I'll be doing something related to like human connection, because that was like out of completely my radar. And you know, prior to Audacity, I was working for big tech companies like Twitter and Google, doing mostly like digital marketing and online ads, sales, and I was already dabbling with a couple of startup ideas on the side, but um, I felt a lot of the ideas that I was working on were very um, ego and significance driven. I was working on them because I want to create a startup because I want to feel important and significant and want to be successful. So there are a lot of failures and trial and error, and I felt a lot of them stem from not having enough passion or investment from my heart to each of the idea. And how I ended up kind of in Audacity or working on Warmspace right now, I felt was very organic. I felt like this was for the first time the startup I'm working on. I felt really guided to be jumping into the space that I'm in right now. Before that, all the startups that I kind of worked on were kind of forced. Like I will have this spreadsheet to look at what the idea was, what the market really needs, what's the likelihood of me succeeding in the space. So it's a very calculative move, as opposed to Warmspace. How I kind of ended up doing this was through my kind of personal development, my own journey of discovering myself and searching for what's more in life led me to a little bit of spirituality, led me to do a lot of self-experiments. I was doing a lot of self-challenges like 5-day water fast, reading 50 books in a year, doing a lot of different like diets. And that's what actually brought me to Shane, or that's what allowed me and Shane to meet, because Shane was experimenting with water fasting, and our friend, mutual friend Poke connected the two of us. And then we lost contact in a while. And I think after a year, after not really being in touch with each other, but because I share a lot of my personal journey on social media, he kind of thought of me when he was spearheading the Project Flourish. So yeah, and I think it was at the very beginning of the initiation of this project. So he was still exploring this space, and then he was just elaborating a lot of like different like keywords and like concepts. I was like, I don't really get what you're saying, but like it sounds very exciting, and I'm in. I was at that place where I wanted to explore for something more in life, and something about the things, a few of the keywords that you mentioned really like sparked something in me. I think it's just the idea of merging technology, which has been a background and interest. I always love like innovation, like a new thing. Combining that with self-development and spirituality, which was really what I was kind of diving deeper into. And then he brought me to the Transfer Conference with you, Jan. And that's when my eyes were quite wide open to realize that there is actually this whole industry of creating startups and products that will actually impact people's lives directly and elevate human consciousness, unleash human potential, and you could make a business out of this, while at the same time sticking to this very human and very impact-driven mission. I didn't realize that there's this whole new industry. I thought like this whole time, like personal development and spirituality is only like a sideline kind of passion. I didn't know that this could be turned into like a business or a startup. So that got me to, I think, part of the whole journey of exploring what is possible within the transformative tech or project story space. That's why I agreed to join Audacity to fully explore what's there in store for me. So I just continue, while working on Project Flourish, I continue exploring different ideas in this space that I can then fully turn to a startup, and then one thing led to another, and then that led me to Warmspace today.
Just to wrap it up, maybe can you share tips, encouragement for the next well-being startup to join Permacolony? Yeah.
Tips or potential use down the potential Edric's version 2.0 down the line.
because now we have well-being is still a very important theme in Permacolony. So what's the message would you like to say out there for other startups in similar space as yours to join Permacolony?
Yeah, I guess my message is to not look down on the impact of the this thing that they're working on in the area of well-being and mental health, because I think at least I felt a little bit of that because we were the minority I felt in the batch, because everyone was working on this like on hardwares or things that felt were more tangible, that were solving on very pressing issues and crises. So it could feel like what we're working on is not as pressing or important compared to the rest of the focus areas. But I would say to not downplay the impact in well-being and mental health, because I really believe a lot of the issues that we're seeing in the world today stem from the lack of evolution in our human consciousness. So I think everything accelerating so quickly in terms of climate change, the technology revolution and all of that. But I feel in terms of how we understand ourselves, how we're healing ourselves, and how we're relating to other people are still very like analog. And in order for us to solve a lot of the problems today, I think it all has to happen. Everything has to happen in parallel. Like, of course, we need to have the solutions that look into all the crises that's happening right now. But at the same time, there also needs to be solutions that help us to connect with ourselves, elevate our consciousness, unleash our potential. And I really believe if we could all heal from a lot of the pain that we're experiencing right now internally, in terms of feeling of not being enough, in terms of the feeling of that what we're doing is not important, the feeling insecure, not believing in our own potential, not feeling that we are competent in doing what we're doing, then this could result into a lot of untapped potential that could be unleashed to the world to solve a lot of these problems today. So yeah, that my message is to all the well-being startups is to realize the value of what we're doing and what we're offering to the world. And I see that as the baseline that will elevate everything else that is making the real big difference in the world. So believe in what you're doing, and what we're doing is important.
Thank you, Edric. That was a really nice message. Cool tech can only have good intentions based on the users, right? So I can see why you won the Most Audacious Startup recognition at last year's Moonshot Permacolony, and we wish you all the best in your journey, touching more lives and making more human connections. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Jen. Thanks for having me here.
Enjoy your day in Bali.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye.
Moonshot Permacolony is a multi-year startup program. The mission to build permacolonies kicked off with a global call for startups in November 2020.
The program is for startups that recognize the importance of scalable impact and longevity. This year, we will focus on nurturing Singapore-based startups that are looking to realize their Moonshot idea for a more sustainable, livable, and lovable society.
From October 15 to 30th, founders and teams have access to notable mentors, investors, and seasoned entrepreneurs. This year's hybrid program also includes in-person activities at Audacity's Playground for Innovators in Jurong Innovation District.
For more details of the program, check out the link in our caption. Applications close 31st August, so do sign up soon.